How you doing today, Chef?
I'm good. How are you?
You're good. I'm good. I'm excited. What are we making today?
So we're gonna do a little bit of chicken and herb and cheese pinwheels. A little ham in there too.
Ham, chicken, cheese.
Yep.
I see some pasta over
Yeah,
here.
and we're gonna serve it with a little bit of mushroom and caper pasta.
Okay.
It's gonna be good.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
If you can't catch the whole show or you have to go somewhere, you can catch our podcast. Just go to wherever you get podcasts and Google the Springer Mountain Farms page, and you will find us there, Cooking with Earth Fare. There you will see a beautiful picture of the dish we are about to serve you. So please stay tuned. We're gonna get right into it after this short little video montage. Yes. I'm Cara Kneer, journalist, wife, host, and a mother of two. I'm joined by Chef Brian Carson, who has over 15 years of culinary experience. Together, we're going to take the mystery out of everyday ingredients you can find at Earth Fare. This and more on today's Cooking with Earth Fare. Welcome to Cooking with Earth Fare, brought to you by Springer Mountain Farms. I'm Cara Kneer. Thank you so much for joining us on this fantastic Monday. How's everybody doing today? Good? Yes. We had such a great studio audience last time, and it's filling up as we speak. Hello, thank you for coming. A frequent guest and fun addition to the show. Thank you for being here. And we love having you here too, so please connect with us all week long. You can use the hashtag Cooking with Earth Fare to keep the conversation going. We love to hear from you. We want suggestions from you on what the secret ingredient should be every week, because each week we feature an ingredient and we tell you how to use it in a dish. So maybe it's something that you commonly cook with, or maybe it's not. There you just saw the picture of what we'll be cooking today. If you have a question while Chef and I are cooking, just simply go to slido.com. There you will use the hashtag Cooking with Earth Fare. You enter your email address. We'll be able to chat back and forth. And you'll also be entered to win a $50 gift card to an Earth Fare, which is fantastic. We do this every week. We love to give away free stuff on this show. So if you're in the area, we are just north of Atlanta in Cumming, Georgia. Please come by and see us. We love to give away free stuff in person and online. So connect with us, ask questions. We can't wait to hear from you. If you're watching right now on Facebook, hello. You can watch us on YouTube. Springer Mountain Farms has a YouTube network. They have a Roku channel. You can go to Cooking with Earth Fare's Facebook page or the Earth Fare's Facebook page. There are so many ways to connect with us each and every week. So we hope you'll join us live at 4 o'clock on Monday, and we're gonna get to that dish right now. And I'm gonna stop talking because I wanna introduce my friend, Chef Brian Carson. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
Doing great.
Good. Okay, so let's let people know what the secret ingredient is. We always post it on Facebook, and people guess, and people are usually right.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good guesses for sure.
We have. Okay, so today it is
mushrooms.
Ooh, mushrooms. Okay, I'm excited. I love mushrooms.
Me too.
Some people do not.
That is very true.
Yes.
That's very true.
But usually mushrooms are like kind of an accoutrement to a dish. You could leave them out if you really, really don't like them.
Yeah,
right?
but why would you?
Like,
they have so much flavor in them. You know, they have tons of umami in them. This natural, just the natural thing that makes everything delicious.
Okay.
Mushrooms have tons of them. I really enjoy that they taste like earth. You know what I mean? That's one of those things that it just really brings out a lot in a dish. And that's kind of why this dish today that we have, we've got some things going on to help balance that. So what we're doing is we're actually gonna make a chicken pinwheel with a little bit of ham, cheese, and herbs in it, and spinach. Now you could easily omit the cheese. I prefer the cheese, and I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. One, we're gonna get kind of a little crust, and we're gonna get these little cheesy bits that'll be in there, and they're great. And then we're gonna serve the pasta. It's got a little bit of capers in it, so that's gonna kind of help because they have a lot of acidity to them, so it'll help balance this whole dish out.
Okay, excellent. SpringerMTN.com is where you can find this recipe. I believe online the cheese is not on there, but you can always add it in because it's a delicious addition.
There's also flour on this recipe that you could easily omit, and we'll talk about that when we get to the technique part.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So the first thing that we're gonna do is today we're actually using a boneless, skinless chicken breast. And this is just kind of a thing. This recipe is meant to show you how to have fun with something that you look at all the time, and maybe you're like, I'm tired of just eating chicken breast.
Sure.
Because you've all seen that a lot of times in butcher counters, you'll see these things. And this is kind of our finished product. I'm gonna show you how to make them next. What we have here is these pinwheels, and you've seen them done with steak, you've seen them done with chicken, all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna show you how to take this and make it into that.
Okay.
And it's not that hard, so everybody, it should be pretty easy.
Okay, scale of 1 to 10. How hard is it? 10 being
So I'm
the
gonna give
hardest?
this a 7 just because we are gonna do this
okay.
production part.
That seems kind of hard.
So,
all right.
with a sharp knife,
Uh-huh.
you're gonna lay the chicken breast out. Now, I'm
Okay.
using this disposable cutting board stuff that you can buy and kind of tear it or cut it to size. It's a little bit thicker than plastic wrap.
Yeah.
So if you're at home, you can totally use plastic wrap. That's not an issue. You just want to cover both the bottom and the top. And the main reason for this is, one, we want to keep that chicken where we want it, but two, we're going to keep it from sending chicken pieces and,
Okay. We don't
and
want
juices
chicken
all
debris.
over the
We
kitchen.
don't want chicken debris.
Right.
All right.
So we're going to take that chicken breast like it is. We're going to start on this thicker side, this outside edge here. We're going to take a sharp knife. We're going to find that halfway point and go all the way down the side.
Okay.
Careful not to cut all the way through, and you can kind of investigative cut it now that you've got an incision.
Ooh, that's a pretty
Just
shot.
kind of
Okay.
pull it. Keep following it open. And if you get a little hole in there, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. But what we're looking for is we're trying to flatten out this chicken like that so we have a relatively even piece of chicken.
That
so
looks nice.
we all know that chicken breasts tend to be thinner on that tail side and fatter at the top. So this helps us in the process next to get a nice even distribution. So we're gonna take that other piece of cutting board material, lay it right on top.
All right.
Next, we're gonna use a meat mallet. Now, there's several tools out there. We've got this standard kind of style meat mallet. There's also some guys out there like this, where you can kind of unscrew this head and turn it around. It's got a tenderizer on one side. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna use this one just because I'm old school, and I'm gonna show you that. So you have a smaller surface area, kind of like a high heel. It's gonna put, if you hit it with this, it's just gonna kind of make that one spot thinner, right?
Okay.
So what we wanna do is we're gonna use the side of this guy. And if you're at home and you don't have one of these, you could totally use a small pot or even a small saute pan.
Your fist? Oh, no.
No.
Okay,
So the
maybe
thing I'm gonna show you is that when we're hitting, we're not just hitting straight down. We're gonna kind of hit and pull towards us and move the chicken around.
All right.
And what you're gonna notice is that's gonna help kind of pull that meat in the direction that we want. So we can get a nice, thin, relatively square piece of chicken. We're not going for perfection here.
Sure.
It's not a style contest, it's a flavor contest, right?
It's a flavor contest.
So, just kind of working around the bird until we have a nice, relatively...
And what's the point in getting it into a square? Just because it's easier to cut pinwheels
Yeah,
that
because
way?
we're gonna roll it up and we kind of want to be able to slice something that's relatively uniform so that it cooks the same, looks the same as much as possible. So just kind of finishing up, and then you can kind of turn it around and use that back side or that flat side to really flatten it out.
Okay.
Got a lot of ringing and dinging over here.
I like it.
So when we pull this off, what you end up with is this chicken flap, if we will.
Sure.
Right? So we're gonna kind of align it so that we have the longest side to us, and kind of this little piece we'll just pull off, and we'll kind of peel it up. I'm just going to try to manipulate it with my hands as much as I can to
Okay.
make it more rectangular. So there we go. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna start building the pinwheel itself. I'm gonna get you to help me with some seasonings.
Okay.
So we're gonna season, making sure we get it kind of all
Salt
over.
and pepper.
Salt and
Okay.
pepper.
I've
Yeah,
been
we want a
working on
little
my
bit.
seasoning game. Is this
Yeah,
good?
this is very good. Yes.
Okay. Great. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna get that all around, and then we're gonna start. We've got some uncured ham. So you could use a cured ham. Just be mindful that if you do, cured ham has a lot more salt. So like if you use prosciutto or pancetta or something like, I wouldn't use pancetta, but prosciutto or like a country ham or something like that, it's gonna have a ton more salt. So kind of address that in your sauce and everything else. Be mindful of that.
Yeah, we've addressed this in previous episodes, but of using whether to use salted or unsalted butter, and you say
Right.
you like to control the salt content of
Right,
what you're cooking,
right.
so it's usually best to use unsalted.
Exactly. And this stuff is really here because we just want a little bit of smokiness, and we want, ham makes everything better,
It's
right?
pretty too.
It does look pretty. And it's gonna give us some kind of little crunchy bits on the end, which is good.
Very excellent.
So we're gonna layer that down, just cover the whole surface, right? Pretty easy. We've got some spinach we're gonna
Right.
use next. I think the recipe calls for 5 cups of spinach. You just wanna get a nice layer
Okay.
It's just that we know that spinach as a whole, it kind of fills up a bowl when you have a pound of it. So you kind of want to just look at it, get a nice even coating. Then we're going to take a little bit of basil, and we're just going to layer a little basil in there. We don't need too much basil. If we put too much, it's going to have way too much flavor.
Overpower it? Okay.
So the next thing is the cheese. So I'm just using an Italian blend here. It's got provolone, Asiago, and Romano. So the reason I picked that is that those harder Italian cheeses, like your Parmesans, get you that nice crust. They have a nutty flavor. They have a lot of fat to them. So they add a lot of flavor. And again, though, salty. So kind of be mindful. So we don't need a ton. We just want to get a little bit in there. And what's going to happen is when we cook these, that cheese is going to start to melt and kind of pull to the bottom. And you're going to see like a little crispy face on them, which is really good.
All right. And everything Chef is using can be purchased at Earth Fare. The list of ingredients are on SpringerMTN.com.
Exactly. So what we're going to do here is we're going to kind of use the material to our advantage, the cutting board material, that is.
Okay.
We're going to kind of pull this back and try to keep it as tight as possible. We're going to just roll it over very easy and gently. And what you end up with is this guy, right? So from here, this is going to kind of make this part easier to get our pinwheel shape. We're going to start kind of like 2 inches. Make sure you seal the flap. Poke all the way through, right? And then we're gonna cut.
You make this look very easy, Chef Brian.
That's the point, right? To get people to do different things. So then we just eat very easily. Take this guy, move it over, poke it through again, and then you match them up.
Nice.
Right? So what we end up with is a nice little pinwheel like that.
Nifty.
So then we move that over, and we'll get to cooking him in a minute, and we'll do the next one. And if you want to use 2 skewers to kind of secure them, because they might kind of try to come open on you when they're cooking, because that protein is going to contract, that's totally fine too.
Then you can also play the fun mother/grandmother game of how many toothpicks are in.
Right. We've talked about, or in your cake, right?
Right.
It's like Nana used to do that all the time. We'd get birthday cakes, and she'd be like, "Watch for the toothpicks."
I know. My mom was really good at doing that with chicken Kiev. We never knew if we were gonna get. And then she had a system like for the ones that were ham, the ones that were spinach, but then she'd forget the system and we'd toothpicks everywhere. She tried. It was
all
good.
right.
It was
So
delicious.
from here, we're gonna get kind of cleaned up.
Okay.
Get all that stuff out of our way.
And Chef is really good about not being wasteful, but those sheets that you put on the chicken, and those are obviously trash.
Right.
You can't reuse them.
No, there's nothing you could reuse. If we were doing any more cutting or something, we would try, but that's kind of the whole point of them, is to be able to use them on the go, dispense of them.
Got it.
So we've got our pan here. I'm gonna actually remove this glow.
Okay.
We've got a little bit of olive oil.
Right.
We're gonna put it in the pan. We're gonna put the pan on pretty high heat, probably about a 7.
Okay.
And what we're gonna do is we'll wait for that to get hot, and we're gonna dredge these lightly in just a little bit of flour.
All right.
And all this is gonna do is help kind of give us a nice crust and keep it from sticking in the pan.
Excellent.
Because we don't want, because they're pinwheels, if they start sticking, then when we go to pull them out, they could start unraveling. And we don't want that, because we want these nice and tight for our, and you're not really getting the sides. It doesn't matter if you do. It's more so about the cut surface.
So if you can't have flour, is there an option?
Totally. You could use cornstarch. You could use a little bit of almond flour or yucca flour or whatever you've got at your disposal.
Okay. Yes. Do you want to come up and ask a question? Please do in the mic. This is very exciting. We get a question from the studio audience. I'm just like, I just got off work, but it's fine. No, it's good because I know you have a gluten allergy, right? Or you're doing keto. You're doing keto.
I'm doing keto and low carb. Could I, instead of doing the flour, it's summertime, I don't want to heat up my house. Can I maybe put this on the grill?
So
Would this be good on the grill?
It's really hard to do a pinwheel, especially with cheese in it, on the grill, because you have all those things that are going to kind of leach out. And again, if any of it sticks, it'll kind of peel off or kind of drip out of the middle, and we want to kind of keep all that stuff in there. If you did it on the grill, what I would say is just put your cast iron or put your pan on your grill. It's still a heat source. It works the same. People don't think about their grill as a stove. They just think about it as a grill. Well, at the end of the day, it's fire with something you can put things on. So you can always put a pot in your grill. Just be mindful of your handles, because the whole thing gets hot if the grill's closed, right?
Well, she doesn't want to heat up her house, though, Chef.
Right, that's what I'm saying, do it outside.
Oh, do it outside,
on the grill.
Yeah,
okay. Not an issue.
Just kidding, I missed
just
that
more
part.
flavor.
Okay, all right, excellent. And
also, you could totally omit the flour altogether and just go straight. Just, I would say, if you're gonna grill them or try them on the grill and not use the flour, just make sure you oil the surfaces really well and make sure you get a nice hard sear. So that's the biggest thing.
Okay, thank you for your question, my friend. We want to give you some of the ingredients used in today's recipe. Thank you. See? Pays to ask a question.
Right.
If you're watching at home, go to slido.com, enter Cooking with Earth Fair, hashtag Cooking with Earth Fair, Cook with EF. Let us know if you have a question. You can also ask on Facebook because we get those questions too, and we will let you know.
So we're just gonna get these guys in the pan. And you see how I'm kind of moving it around when I put them in there. That way we're just kind of guaranteeing that they're not sticking. And we've got a nice little kind of separation between them so they can do their own thing and hopefully not drop the heat of the pan so much.
Okay.
We're gonna put this guy down here.
Let's do it.
So we don't need that guy right now. And we're gonna talk about the pasta side. So before the show started, we went ahead and cooked the pasta. Just because we've cooked pasta on the show, we don't really need to talk about it.
No.
What we do is, what we are gonna talk about is what pasta we used. So we did use a 100% organic semolina Durum flour, Italian style Capellini. Now,
Okay.
Capellini is one of my favorite styles of
too.
pasta because it's just like you're not chewing on this mouthful of pasta while you're trying. You get sauce, it kind of melts away, you get to taste all the good stuff in there.
It's thinner than spaghetti, correct?
It is, but it's not as thin as angel hair.
It's not as thin as
No,
angel hair.
no.
Okay.
And you can look, sometimes you'll see crazy stuff that says like Capellini #1 or 2, and you can kind of look at them in there dry and tell the difference.
Okay.
But also, I was gonna say that here they do offer a brown rice gluten-free version, which I've tried, it's really good. Also, a lot of times I prefer the texture of the corn-based pastas. To me, they just have closer to the texture that we're
All right.
going for.
Good to know. Good pro tip.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Is there any secret in cooking gluten-free pasta? Because I know I've heard people saying that it globs together or
So
it's
I will
a little trickier.
You just gotta move it. You gotta stir it a lot.
Okay.
So you already should be stirring your regular pasta a lot, but gluten-free pasta you definitely have to stir because it will clump together on you. And the first time I actually ever made gluten-free pasta, I totally messed it up. Like I had just a pot of spaghetti. The other thing I'll say is I feel like you need a bigger pot with way more water rolling at a boil when you go to cook it than regular flour-based
Got it.
pasta.
Good to know. Okay.
So we're gonna let our pinwheels do our thing. So we actually have the pot that we cooked our pasta in, because when you cook pasta, you just cook all this stuff in there, dump it out, strain it, and then everything's fine. And you don't really think about, you wash the pot and you just go along with it. But we know we've done some things here on the show where we use some of the pasta water to kind of thicken a sauce and do things like that. So you can totally rinse this pot out and just reuse it to make your sauce if you're in a hurry. You can also build this sauce in the pan with these mushrooms.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of do a cheat sheet. So I'm gonna show you how to get all the benefits of making the sauce in the same pan, but using the same pot and kind of
Alright.
also speeding up the process.
Okay. Let's do it.
So we got our pot, we're gonna turn it on, because the whole point of building the sauce in the pan with the chicken is getting all that fond. And fond is that stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pan when we're searing that.
If I had a
Because all that
dollar
stuff's
though
flavor.
for every time the recipe says to conserve the pasta water, reserve the pasta
Right.
water, and then I throw it away, I'm like, no!
Right,
It's
'cause
like
you-
liquid gold down the drain.
Well-
I'd have at least $10, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say liquid gold, but it's pretty good. Like, it's great, like, especially when you do like cacio e pepes or carbonaras. You really need that pasta water to kind of bring that sauce together.
Okay, while you get the mushrooms out, we do have a question from Imagine
Okay.
Amy. Thank you so much for the question. How do you clean these mushrooms?
Okay, so one thing I was going to talk about is that we have both, these are white mushrooms, white button mushrooms, very
Okay.
simple mushroom. So you can get whole or you can get sliced. The thing I've found in experience is that the sliced are usually cleaner because they've washed them already before they go to slicing them. Whereas when you have these guys, and I'll kind of show you, and these ones are actually pretty clean for a button mushroom, but you see that they do have kind of brown specks on them.
Sure.
So what you can do is use a small paintbrush or pastry brush to kind of brush that stuff away. You don't really want to wash them because then you're introducing moisture to the mushroom and you won't get color and you won't get sear on them if you do it that way.
Okay.
So I would say just brush them clean or use a towel if you need to. And also
Is that necessary to do or no?
People have mixed thoughts on that.
Okay.
I think that a little bit of dirt's gonna do you all right.
All right.
But that's me.
I'm eating what you're cooking.
So we got sliced mushrooms, gonna go into our olive oil that's nice and hot, because we do wanna get a little bit of sear on. We wanna bring out their flavor as much as anything
Thank you
else.
for that question, Amy.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna put these in there, making sure we're watching our fat, because mushrooms do soak up everything. They're little flavor sponges. So we wanna kind of make sure it keeps enough fat to keep it going. And we're gonna actually add some salt right now while it's cooking too.
Okay.
That's gonna help pull some of the moisture of the mushrooms out. And also, it's gonna make sure that they've got a lot of seasoning going into being cooked.
Awesome. If you're watching this right now and you're like, I think I could make that dish, we would certainly love to see you try. You can go to Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, at Cooking with Earth Fair, hashtag Cooking with EF on Twitter, and show us a picture. You can do this recipe, or if you go to springermtn.com, you can do any recipe that we have featured. This is actually our 22nd episode in season 2, so there are a lot of recipes to choose from. There was one of my favorites, the chicken burrito bowls. They're all really my favorites. I've made a lot of them, and if I can do it, you can do it too. Show us your picks.
So all I've started doing is flipping these, and you'll see what I was talking about, how you're getting that beautiful crust and color. And I am using the fish spatula because they did want to stick a little bit, but that's because of the cheese. And we kind of knew that was going to happen. That flour is still doing its job and making sure that none of this stuck to the pan. It's still stuck to the chicken.
Okay.
So we'll
That
flip
looks
these
really
guys.
nice.
Oh yeah. And we kind of just give them a little press down so that they're all a little closer to even. We're gonna let that keep going, doing this thing.
Okay.
And I know everybody here in the audience can smell it, but you can't on the TV. But the mushrooms are alive and well. They are just all kinds of beautiful flavors or smells of the flavor of mushroom just filling up the room. So, and you see how they're getting glossy. They look shiny. They're starting to get a little bit of color in places. That's what we want. That's why I kind of haven't been messing with them too much.
Sure.
So this sauce for the pasta is really simple. It's going to be, we've done an emulsification on the show with chicken stock and butter before. We're going to do the same thing, but with olive oil. So it's going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit fluffier. We're also going to garnish with a little bit of more basil. So we'll put a little bit of basil, because basil with that mushroom, you're going to have sweetness and earthiness, and then capers. I think we talked, did we use capers once?
We may have once before, yes.
So if you've never had a caper, try them out. So capers are actually little berries of a bush
Like salty
that
little
are
berries.
used a lot in French cuisine, but they brine them. So they have like a pickled flavor. They have a salty pickled flavor, but they have some acid to them. So when you add them to dishes like this, where you have a super earthy thing, going with pasta, you got cheese, put the capers in there, these little crunchy bits of brininess throughout the pasta.
Very good.
And you don't have to add those early on. You want to kind of add them at the end. You don't really need them to cook or open up or anything like that.
Okay.
So one of the things we're going to do right now, because like I promised we were going to get all the benefits of building these two sauces in the same pan.
Sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to hit these chickens, a little bit of white wine.
All right. Any particular kind of wine you like to use?
Something that tastes good and doesn't cost a lot. That's all you really need.
I like your honesty.
And this is going to kind of help this chicken steam as well, because we're not so worried about, the chicken isn't very thick, but it's rolled up, right? So you got to make sure we get that heat penetrating through all there and make sure we have nice done pinwheels. You don't want to serve anybody some raw chicken pinwheels. So we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock with that white wine and let it do its thing. And we're going to almost let this kind of reduce almost down to nothing.
All right.
We'll put this guy on it. And then we're going to do the same thing with the mushrooms. And this sauce is very simple, but you could easily at this point add shallots and garlic if you wanted to. You could add, a little bit of chili flake if you want some spice. You could add lemon zest to this and lighten it up. You can also just make this pasta by itself. I really enjoy it. So,
Smells great.
yeah, and these guys are doing their thing. We're actually going to turn the heat up right now.
Okay.
While we've got that liquid in there, because we're not worried about it like cooking or burning them, because we have liquid in there, right? So by turning the heat up, we're just creating more steam to speed that process up.
Okay.
And that's why we got our nice what you, in the kitchen, we call presentation side. So we have this nice crust on the top, and then we're just gonna make sure we cook them all the way through.
All right.
So, that being said, our mushrooms are looking good. We're gonna go ahead and add the capers. And I would say that's like, capers, they come in like a 2 to 3 ounce jar because you don't need a ton of them. They have, like I said, they have a ton of flavor.
They do.
We're gonna move this around, and you can smell the capers. You smell how they smell kind of briny and vegetable-y, vegetation. That's what they smell like. So now we're gonna add a little bit of white wine. And again, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna turn the heat up. Because now that we got that liquid in there, we're not worried about anything burning or sticking or any of that stuff.
And capers seem relatively easy to cook with and something that's a little out of the ordinary that you might
Totally.
not normally use. So
Absolutely.
experiment with those.
And they have capers with white wine goes really well together. So like, basically chicken piccata, if you've ever had that, is this same sauce, but with lemon juice and a little bit of flour to thicken it up.
Got it.
So we're gonna take a little bit of basil, get ready. Just chiffonade this stuff up. We've talked about that before. Just like thin little ribbons.
And you didn't cut the basil that went in the pinwheels.
No,
Just
because you're
you
gonna,
kept it whole like the spinach?
right,
Okay.
and you're gonna cut that when you cut into the pinwheel and go at the Eaton.
Okay.
So,
Did you say go at the Eaton, chef?
yeah,
Okay,
go
I like
at it
it.
Eaton is what I meant.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah, so,
Good.
little colloquialisms, right?
I like it.
So now that we've got our wines about reduced by half, that's what you want. That's kind of a rule, depending on what you're doing. Like with red wine, if I want something to be sweet, I'll reduce it down by like 3/4 because red wine has a lot of sugars in it. It reduces like port and things like that.
Sure.
So we're gonna add a little bit of chicken stock because we need that protein to kind of help bind when we emulsify this sauce with the olive oil later. We're gonna check on our chicken.
Okay, let's do it. It's very nice, very exciting.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So you see how this stuff here, we've got, oh yeah, we're getting there.
Looks nice. Okay, we have another question from Kathy. Kathy, thank you so much for writing in. She wants to know, how much salt do we need to add to the chicken?
So we just season the outside, really.
Right.
So that's the idea. So I would season it to your liking. Salt and pepper is always a really tough thing to be like, oh, put a tablespoon in it. Like if it's a sauce or like a batch of something, a soup or something like that, you can kind of gauge.
Sure.
But when it's like a meat or a protein or a steak or something, I always kind of say do what you prefer. So we've got ham in here, we've got cheese in here. Those things add salt. So just be mindful of it and kind of trust yourself.
Sure.
You know what you like. You know if you like things a little saltier or a little spicier, so you can add your pepper and your salt that way.
And Kathy, if you missed earlier in the episode, we were talking about cooking with unsalted butter,
Yeah.
uncured ham, so you can kind of control your salt content
another
in
one.
your dish. And I'm guessing the more you use it or don't
Yeah,
use it, the more
it's
familiar
all
you
about
become with what you like.
experience. You know, the more you cook and the more you do these things on your own, you'll realize like the more it kind of becomes your own. And that's what we love about cooking food is that a recipe is a guideline. So I can give you all the instructions in the world, but really you're still gonna go home and make your
Right.
own version of it.
Like the speed limit. No, it's not a guideline. We don't endorse that here at Cooking with Earth Fair. Ooh,
No.
another question. Mom, 1984. I think you asked a question last week. Thank you for returning. If that's you, we appreciate you. She says, I prefer portobello mushrooms. Which is your favorite? I'm going to answer first, if I may.
Yeah, please
I'm
do.
from Indiana. If there's anybody else from the Midwest or one of those kind of damp, creaky climates, sometimes I prefer
Damn,
the
creaky.
morel.
I've never heard someone use the word creaky.
Creaky, not creepy.
Oh, I thought you said creaky.
No, because they grow by the creek beds. The morel mushroom is my favorite, and I have many fond memories of cooking them with my dad. So that's what I like. But I like all mushrooms, really. I'm a mushroom fan. How about you, Chef?
Me too. I mean, it's hard to find a mushroom I don't like. I even like black fungus and wood ear, which has a really weird texture, gelatinous, that people kind of get turned off by. So real quick, I want to fill everyone in.
Thank you, Mom.
I did dump that
1984,
juice that was in the bottom of this pan out. So
Okay.
that's in our sauce, and you can already tell that our sauce has started to thicken just from adding that. And that's because there was flour in this pan. That's because there was cheese in this pan, all those things. So they're gonna help build our sauce. And at the end, we're just gonna take a little bit of olive oil.
Okay.
It doesn't take much. And we're gonna give that a swirl. And we're gonna watch it, and it's gonna emulsify right up to a nice thin sauce, and we're gonna just simmer it just a second, and you'll see it thicken right back up. And then when we add the pasta, obviously the pasta still has starch to it, so the pasta's gonna thicken it up a little bit at the very end too.
This is great.
Yeah, and what we're gonna do in preparation
Okay, what can I help you with?
is I'm just going to start removing some of our sticks.
Okay.
So very gently, you should be able to just pull those guys right out of there.
Ooh, yeah.
And then,
Can you do that again?
yes.
Okay, because I want the camera to be able to see that. It's so exciting.
So we're gonna back these out. Excuse me, grab this one. Take this guy. Oop, not to lose all of our cheese. And just pull right out. And then you can kind of separate them, and you'll be able to tell when you pull them apart whether or not that's done. So if it's done in the middle between those pinwheels, it's gonna be done in the middle of the
Okay,
pinwheel.
excellent.
So, real quick, let's look at our sauce because I want y'all to see this at home.
Sure.
You see what I'm talking about? You see how the bubbles have gotten bigger? That shows us that the sauce has started to emulsify, and we've got a texture of a sauce and not too watery.
Okay, well, we're showing that pretty shot of all those mushrooms. Let's go to a question from Of Course I Can. Why are mushrooms being pushed for nutritional value, but they weren't in the past? Is one variety more nutritionally dense than the other? Yes, I'm full of questions. We appreciate that you're full of questions. Thank you for asking that. Chef, do you have an answer for that?
So that is a very broad spectrum.
Okay.
Mushrooms have, I think that it's just been the fact of the study of fungus as a whole is so broad. Like mushrooms live off and operate off of a mycelium, which is like this thing that you can't see, you can't understand, but it produces mushrooms. So like if you have ever seen a fairy ring, right? There's an organism that grows underneath the ground quietly that is what creates
getting interesting,
mushrooms.
okay.
And so that's when mushrooms pop up where they pop up. It's because the conditions have been correct. Somehow the spores were carried there for wind or water or whatever. So the study of wild mushrooms versus cultivated mushrooms is really, really young, I would say. Like people have been using them for generations, but it's also been a thing that there's so many types of mushrooms out there, and especially in the wild, and you can't eat 90%.
Right, yeah, don't just go foraging for mushrooms.
No, and you need to go with a mycologist or someone. There's also some programs online that will kind of teach you what to look for. But this is one of those things, like, I think that it's a young study and that they're just kind of really opening it up and getting into all the things about it that are good for you.
That are good for us, all right.
But it's this thing that like fungus, we know, like they've created a fungus recently that eats plastic, like deteriorates plastic. So they're playing around with all these ideas of using
I would say probably
fungus.
don't ingest that one.
No,
It's not a
maybe
good
not.
idea.
Maybe
No.
not.
But thank you for the question. Of course
Right.
I can.
So we're gonna do a fancy plate. I'm gonna
okay.
I'm gonna try to pull off a nice little restaurant trick here for you.
All right.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our big forceps tongs.
Okay.
And we're going to kind of get all into our pasta as much as we can. We're going to see if I can do it. These guys aren't straight, so sometimes it's a little hard. If you have a tuning fork or like a big meat fork at home, it's a perfect thing. Oh yeah, we're getting it. So you do is you just twirl it till you get this nice little grouping.
It's nice.
And then I'll set that down.
You get this shot.
Yeah. And then I'll just use your fork real quick. You just push it right off.
All right.
And you're gonna end up, and you end up with a little tight bunch of pasta rather than just
pretty.
a big pile of it on the plate. So,
I always wondered how you all did that.
yeah, and you can do it with tongs too. You can kind of get a small twirl, but it's tighter when you have the forceps.
Okay.
Or the tuning fork works fine.
Here, let's
And we'll
move
take-
this
oop.
over here because I want to get a. Is that better for you, Paul? To get a shot over here.
So we're just gonna add some of our
Everybody can see
mushrooms
that.
and capers from the top
Okay.
because most of our sauce is on that pasta, which is what we want.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah. Pretty and delicious. And then we just take our pinwheels and you can kind of lay them on the side if you want, or put one here and one there. Kind of have a little bit of fun with it.
I like it.
So that's more of what I would do there. And then if you want to, you can always add a little bit more garnish of basil. You could add a little bit more cheese on the top to the pasta or some
Okay.
fresh grated Parmesan. Any of those things are acceptable.
Sure. It looks
There you
beautiful.
have
Chef
it.
Brian Carson, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. That looks amazing. I will dig in because I have to, because it's my job. And in the meantime, the $50 gift card goes to Alexander K. Jr. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for asking.
Thanks for watching.
The question. Thank you for watching. Where did the fork go, Chef?
Oh, I stole it.
Sorry, it's okay.
I put it in here.
Okay, it's all right. It's fine.
There it is.
I mean,
Still works.
This
It's
is the
just
best
wet.
part of my day, every day. So I need to be able to try this. I'm going to cut into this pinwheel too. Did I already say thanks to Springer Mountain Farms? Did I say thank you to Earth Fair? Did I say thank you to you?
I think you're doing it right now.
Okay. Did I do all those things, Jeff? Thank you so much for watching and for joining us. Like we said earlier in the show, if you can't catch this show or you just love it so much and you want to watch it again or listen to it again, you can listen to our podcast. It's called The Leftovers. Also, if you want more from Chef and you want to learn more about cooking and techniques, we roll those videos out on Springer Mountain Farms Facebook page, so check that out. We're on YouTube, we're on Roku. There's so many ways you can watch us. We really are, and we appreciate you watching. So cheers, till next week. Thank you, Chef.
Good.
Oh, so good.